Good evening. Welcome back to Macray's Keep. In tonight's stream, we are going to do a little work in 2 dimensions. Although the strength of our software is 3 dimensions in VR, still working in 2 dimensions and supporting 2-dimensional gaming. There's just a ton of great content out there in 2D. And it was a priority of ours to make sure that it was quick and easy and a good experience, whether you're running 2D or 3D games. Tonight we will be using some maps from Maps and Quests. On Twitter, he is at n_quests. And you should check out his Patreon as well. He's got a number of free maps, but you can get some really amazing stuff. The map we'll be working with tonight is available to his Patreons, and it's just really great variety of content, a ton of content. So if you're looking for 2D maps, definitely check that out. You can also get his Twitter directly from my Twitter at Macray's Keep, and get to his Patreon that way. But for now, we are going to get in, and we're going to do a couple of things on the stream tonight. First of all, I've got one scene / map loaded up and kind of ready to go. And then we're going to, that is an exterior or area map, kind of a large area. And then we'll talk about kind of uses for that type of situation. And then once we go interior, we're going to create that scene from scratch. Show you just how quick and easy that is. On another stream, not tonight, but on a subsequent stream, we are going to talk less about authoring, creating scenes, and more about running a game session and transitioning from scene to scene to scene to scene, and how seamless and quick and easy that is, whether you're running in 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions. So we are going to fire up the Pocket Gaming dimension right away here, and I've got the scene in question. The map that we have from Maps and Quests is the Canal District, and this is the outdoor version of that. When you get maps from Maps and Quests, they have you don't just get one map. You get a whole bunch of different versions, different weather, different conditions. You get the indoor, you get the outdoor, and in this case, and we'll talk about the viewpoints here in a second too. In this case, we have, I fired it up in the wrong context. We'll talk about this too in a second and what I just did there and why. You get a whole bunch of different versions. This version is the outdoor version, or the version where all the buildings have roofs on them. So when you want to start the game and your party is moving around out between the buildings, you can use this. And when they enter into a building, this being the inn and tavern here up here, then you can switch to the interior, where you can obviously see the interior. We're just going to work with the first floor map tonight, but there's, depending on the map that you get, a lot of the buildings have multiple floors. And again, it's just really a good, just a huge volume, whether you grab one map like this. You get all different versions. You get a high PPI version if you want to print something. You get a lower PPI version for using it digitally, so you don't have such high load times. Just great stuff, great stuff. So what you see here, we're going to talk first. I'm going to close this again. We're going to talk contexts just a little bit. And I've talked about context in a previous stream. And a context here at Macray's Keep is just a logical grouping of characters. And you might have, your main group. You might have, in this case, I've got a bunch of characters in the 2D demo that we're working on tonight. I've got a monsters context and an NPC context. It's a good way of organizing all your characters, all your monsters, all your things like that. As far as gameplay goes, context can be used to segregate your players and your characters when the party splits. So if somebody goes out to the back alley, they leave the inn and they're going to go meet somebody in the back alley, you would create a context for the back alley and you would move their character into that, and it kind of isolates them from messaging and other types of communication that, if somebody did leave the area where one part of the group was, they would be isolated to a certain extent. So in this case, with regard to the pocket gaming dimension, you can have the same scene or the same encounter, but have different characters loaded, different all sorts of different things, and then you can fire the pocket gaming dimension up from whichever context you want to do. So if I fired this up in the main group, I don't have any of these characters loaded. It would be a blank map. But because I'm firing it up from this context, any of these characters, and I'll show you how you know in a second, you can see these buttons here, which allows you to toggle a character in or out of the scene. The green ones are obviously in the scene, the gray ones are not in the scene. You can toggle here by adding or subtracting, or when we get into the scene, it's easy to toggle as well. All scenes in the PGD load from the default viewpoint, which is a 3D viewpoint. I'll show you how to change that in a second if you're strictly in 2D mode. And you can always switch. Character viewpoints still work even in 2D mode. We'll show that in a second. We have a scene view, which is what we're looking at. We have top-down, which is really good for 2D maps. We also have a 2D mode, which is a top-down view, but it disables rotation of the map, which makes things just a lot easier. Front and side view in 2D mode are not going to be helpful at all, because they're just going to show really kind of a line across the screen because there's no third dimension to see. So if we go into top-down view, you can see the whole map here, and we can rotate the map in any which way. But in 2D mode, that's just more of an annoyance than anything else, because, going down into 2D, it just really is not helpful, and it's actually more of an annoyance. So if you want to go into 2D mode, basically you get the top-down view, but now when I'm grabbing and dragging with my mouse, nothing is happening. I can still zoom with a mouse wheel, and holding control I can still pan to move around, but no more rotation, which gets you kind of all discombobulated, and it's just kind of useless and just, like I said, more of a hindrance in 2D maps and 2D gaming than it's worth. So you can go into 2D mode, and that kind of disables that. Now, in a larger scene map like this one, you can see we have a group of characters here outside the tavern, very small. That's because this area is very large. It's 60 squares. The squares on this map are 10 feet squares. So when we get into 3rd edition, 5th edition D&D, and a lot of other gaming systems as well, we want to stay at 5-foot squares, or have our characters fit in the 5-foot squares, even if the grid on the map is 10 foot. Excuse me. So we can zoom in on our party if we want to. Or the better way to do that, especially when you got a big map or a very busy map, is this handy drop down right here. This is a drop down of all the characters that are currently on the map, and you can see that these 4 characters correspond to these 4 green buttons over here in this context, because we're in the 2D demo context. And if you choose one of these, it basically is just going to zoom you right in on that character, and then you can just do a quick zoom out. and you're in a much better place for running an encounter. So if some bad guys came around the corner here and started attacking your group, or if there was a beggar over here and the party wanted to interact with them, you can do all of that right here. What we would do if we were running a game, we would have another scene, which we're going to create from scratch right now, but we would have that already created with the interior. And when the party was done out here, had their discussions, talked to the beggar, fought off the bad guys, and were ready to go into the inn, then you would simply load that scene right from here. There are other ways to load this as well, which we'll get into more in a different stream when we talk about scenarios and encounters, having those things pre-made so that it makes it easier to have all the information you need about a given encounter, and then it makes it much easier to transition from one encounter and one scene to the next and to the next and to the next. One of the things that we really are focusing on with this software is keeping the live sessions as smooth and quick as possible, so you don't have a lot of downtime for the players between from one encounter to the next, where characters are rearranged and things are reinitialized, and different assets have to be loaded. A little prep work ahead of time, and with just a click or two, you're basically right into the next scene. It loads, and you're just ready to go, nice and smooth as you like. So let's talk about creating the interior of this. And again, like I said, when you get your maps from Maps and Quests, you get there's a whole nother version of this map that the roofs are not there and you see the interior. And instead of, for what we're doing today, instead of having the entire map exposed, I just basically clipped out the interior out of that map and uploaded it to the system here that we're going to use as the basis for our next encounter. So it's very easy to create a new encounter, and we're going to do that right now. All you got to do is click this button right here, load a blank scene. And this is scaled up because we were in a much larger scene. So we'll go into scene view right here, and you can see how we have our standard 3D scene. So how do we get from that to our 2D scene? So we're going to do a couple of things right off the bat here. First of all, we're going to rename the scene. And this is going to be the Canal District Tavern Interior, first floor. All right. And now, because we're going to be in 2D mode here, we're going to turn off our ceiling. We're going to turn off the walls. And we're going to be left with our floor. And we are going to go into, I'm going to just go into top-down view for now. 2D mode would be fine for this as well. Now we have to do two things. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to load up the map image, which again I already clipped out of the larger map and updated it or uploaded it right here with the file manager. Very easy to do. And you can see we have an image right here, Feywild Canal District Tavern Interior .png. So in order to load an image onto one of the elevation grids, whether it's the floor or wall or ceiling, but in this case just the floor, you just right click and you can choose your options here. This is to put a tiled image down, and this is to put a full image down, which we're going to do here. Although at first it's going to look weird because we have to match up our grid size with the map, but we're going to get this done first. And here we have our Feywild Canal District Tavern Interior graphic. And there it is. Although it looks a little weird, it's a little disjointed, and that's because our sizes of our map, our scene, do not match the size of the map. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 squares across. Okay, and again, those are 10-foot squares, so we're going to double that to 14. And one thing to remember on the keep, that we count vertices, or the vertical and horizontal lines, so that's actually 15. It's 14 columns, but 15 vertices. So we're just going to go up to 15 on that. And then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And again, we're going to double that for 24 and then add 1. So that's 25. And now we are going to reset our viewpoint, and we're going to zoom out. And I'm going to go into 2D mode here. And so now what we have is we can hold, again, holding down control to pan, and I'm using the mouse wheel to zoom. You can also hold just mouse wheel to zoom and holding control to pan around. You can also, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second, hold the right mouse button and move up and down, and that's going to zoom you as well if you don't like using the mouse button. So that's really it for creating basically the 2D scene or the 2D encounter. If we go into a different mode here, you can still see that we're in 3Ds. We're just using only 2 of the dimensions instead of 3. Now, when we come in, we load this for the first time. But like I said, scene view is the default view, and this is how everybody would come into this scene. Which, I mean, sure, you can do that if you want. It's not really the best experience for 2D mode. What I would do is I would switch to, you can use this option to save the current viewpoint, however you have it arranged, as the scene view or as the default. So what I would do in this case is I would get this all set up just the way I want it, all nice, top down, and then I would do save this as the current viewpoint. You see you get a confirmation up here. And then if we reload this scene at any time, instead of getting that default scene view, what you're going to get is you're going to get this nice top-down view, just how you have it, just how we have it now. And you can do that if you want to have it zoomed in, or you want to have it focus on something else for whatever effect is going on in that particular encounter. You can certainly do that. Now, we want to add our party. Ostensibly, they just came in through the doors, which are right here. So one of the nice things you can do is you can set up the default insertion point for any figures, characters, tokens, or objects. Otherwise, they come in at 0, 0, which is the top left, and that's fine too, especially for if you're just doing initial setup of the scene. So we're going to bring in a couple of characters here, and I'm going to just size this a little bit and move this over here. And so I want to bring in Old Borash Deep Vein. He's going to be our bartender. So we're going to just click that. And here he is. Here's his 2D token. And we're going to put him right behind the bar. And again, just because we're in 2D doesn't mean lighting doesn't work. If things you can't see, you want to brighten things up, you certainly can do that. And I like to, when I'm authoring, I like to brighten things up just so I can kind of see if later on we want to dim down the lights or change the color of the light or something like that. You certainly can feel free to do that if you like, depending on the condition. So where do these tokens come from? This is a 2D token. Just to show you that, if we come over here to our roster and we want to open up the actual character record for Old Borash here, you can see that this is his character record. He has, we've already assigned this 2D token here. We've got a really nice selection of those, which is always growing. One of our longtime members from way back, Hellcast, he's been working diligently on creating a whole bunch of character and monster tokens, 2D tokens, and you can assign any of those to the character that you want. But when you add a character to the scene, if he does not have a 3D figure associated with it or assigned to it, you're going to by default just get the 2D token that's assigned here. As an additional note, when you start adding monsters and other things, the size actually affects the token itself. So if you make a token large, you have a monster that's large, it's going to come in not 5 by 5, it's going to be 10 by 10, etc., for all the different sizes. Tiny is a half, again, the size of a normal medium-sized or smaller medium. They are both the same. This is 5th edition rules that we have this. This is one of the very few areas where we're specific on a rule system. I know 3rd edition has a couple of different size categories. We had to kind of pick a lowest common denominator, so we just standardized the size on 5th edition. Now that's not to say when you bring a figure in or a token even, you can still scale that right in scene here. So if you want to do that, you can certainly do that if you want to do fine tuning. It's just a little default to help you if you have a large or gargantuan or something. It's gonna scale that token for you. And while we're here, certainly all of the normal things apply. You can have a light source for the character in question, and you can change the intensity and the radius for that. You can change the color too. So all of that stuff, 2D or 3D, still works just the same. Tokens are magnetized by default. Having them above the floor in a 3rd dimension doesn't make a lot of sense when you're kind of operating in a 2D world. That's fine. You can still rotate. You can rotate your tokens if you want. I don't know that there's a lot of call for that in a 2D mode. Again, scaling up and down if you want to. This helps you locate it if it's in a different part of the map. And then this button right here, you can just remove him from the scene nice and easily, and that works the same as clicking this button. So we'll bring old Borash back in here. And we'll put him back behind the bar. So we're going to bring in some of our other player characters that we saw outside, and we'll put them just inside. They just entered. And then I've created a few just random tavern patrons here. Again, you never know. Gonna put him right on the barrel there. He's having a drink. This table looks like it's pretty busy over here. And you can turn if you want. If you can't get things to line up with your 2D assets that are part of the map, you can turn the snap off and then arrange things exactly like how you want. This looks like a pretty shady group over here. We've got a barmaid. She's going to come out and say, hey, how you doing? We're going to put the snap back on for her. She's over here waiting on this table. And we've got one more patron here. And he's going to be back at this table all by himself. So it's really just that easy. And again, this is not, all what we're doing here is really not meant for in-game or while you're playing. This is more authoring. And you can see that if you suspect that your characters will be visiting the inn and the adventure, you can pre-position them to say, well, they're just entering the inn. This is about where I think they're going to be. And that way, when you load this, if we click out of here now, and we come back, this should put us in the first scene. But now if we say, okay, we're out here just like we were talking before, and the group's talking about going in and having a drink and seeing if they can get some information about the adventure they're on. They talk to the beggar who might have been over here or fought off the bad guys like we mentioned earlier, and they say, okay, we're ready to go to the inn. Again, there's multiple ways of doing this, but the most straightforward and simple way is you simply open up, select the scene. Here's the interior, and you load this up. And again, we were in the big one there, so we're going to adjust that. But everything is right where we left it. All your characters, they've now entered, and you can read the description of the interior of the inn, talk about these two, this couple over here and what they're doing, this guy back over here. This guy's having a drink by himself at the bar. The barmaid's over here. The bartender's looking at him. He looks pretty grumpy, even though he's looking for some more money on the night. Not a lot of business in here right now. But basically, that's all there is to it. Loading a different scene, creating a scene, grabbing an asset, whether it's something you created in Photoshop, something you brewed up from scratch using Incarnate, or like in this example, you got something from one of the great creators that are out there in the community, like Maps and Quest. You can quickly get up to speed. Whether you're just throwing an image down and putting some tokens in and getting your adventure going, or you're going to do a little authoring where you're going to have some scenes kind of lined up one after another, ready to go, ready for people to start having a full scenario instead of just one or two encounters. You can certainly do all of that. Let's see, what else can we talk about in 2D mode? Again, in here, I'm in 2D mode. I like to stay in 2D mode just because there's no rotation. You can just kind of pan around and zoom in. You can still, of course, if you want to take a close look at one of the tavern patrons, you can do that. If you want to, again, not the most applicable, but you can always switch into a character viewpoint. Now, as the Dungeon Master, I have access to every character. Players only have access to the character or characters that they're controlling. But if we wanted to switch into, say, old Durin here, we could do that and switch into his viewpoint. But again, in 2D mode, that's not really something that you're going to do a whole lot of. We talked about the snap. We don't have any objects in this scene, but if we did, it works the same. We could add objects this way. Again, we're in 2D mode, but you could have create some 2D assets that you wanted to put in here. Say you wanted a 2D candle icon that you could assign as a light source. You can certainly do that. You can definitely at the scene level still have audio associated with the scene. I don't think I have a tavern sound. Let's see, we can probably do this on the fly here. Let's see. Do we have inn and tavern? Look at that. We'll upload that real quick. And again, we get a progress up here. that's uploading. Okay, it's been uploaded. Here it is in our file manager. And now when we click here to select the clip for the scene, we have the Inn and Tavern. We're going to load that. We're going to start that. And we're going to loop that. I haven't listened to this one, so I'm hearing it for the first time, just like you guys. But you can do all that. Again, you can have each character can have an audio clip. So if Borash had a kind of a standard greeting when people walked in, you could certainly put that in there, or do it any way you wanted that way. So 2D mode does not disable anything. It makes more sense to do things a certain way, but all the features that are there for 3D mode are certainly available to you. I'm going to turn that off. It's loud in my ears. I don't know how it comes across the stream. Again, like we said, you can change the lighting as well. Here, this controls whether or not the players see that lighting or whether they are dependent upon lights that are actually placed in the scene. In 2D mode, because unless you do, like I said, place maybe some lanterns or candles as 2D assets that you then have a light for, you can certainly do it that way and then turn this off, and the players don't get the benefit of seeing any of this light. You can still use fog if it's kind of hazy in the inn. Again, not the greatest effect in 2D mode, but it's certainly something that you can do if you want to. We saved the default viewpoint, but we did not create any custom viewpoints. And again, the rest of this doesn't apply in a 2D mode. But that's pretty much the extent of it. Again, you can see it's very easy to add and remove character tokens, and do all sorts of stuff with lighting, sound, and all of that. Just like a 3D scene, except we're working in 2D. Like I said, for the if you wanted to, and it's a little difficult to show without having a player logged in, but they would see if you had if you turn Borash's light on, then if you disabled the DM light, it would be more like this. And they would only see what their light source, but that, if it was very dim everywhere else and you wanted to show something like that, you can certainly do various different lighting effects, again, to your taste. But this was a short stream, a short video. I just wanted to kind of show everybody the basics and how quick and easy it is to get up and running with just a couple of uploads, whether it's images or audio, or you want to upload your own character tokens, that's fine. The file manager will let you do any of that sort of stuff, and get you into your 2D scene and on your 2D adventure. So thanks a lot for watching, and again, if you are looking for some awesome 2D maps, I would definitely want to check out Maps and Quests. Again, it's n_quests on Twitter. You can also get that from my Twitter, and he's on Patreon. You can just search Maps and Quests there, and find all this awesome content for what's really no money at all. Some of the tiers are like $2 a month, and you really just get an amazing amount of value for a very small amount of money. And you can also, I should say, and we're going to be covering this in the next stream, if you're not running in 2D and if you're going to run in 3D, every 3D scene starts out with either a textured image as the floor or the ground, or however you want to look at it, or imagine this image with basically the wood floor. You would create 3D walls and windows around it, but you still need some sort of base for your 3D map. And you can certainly use all sorts of stuff from, like I said, creating it on Incarnate, or you can use a map like this. Just to give you a real brief example, if we go into top-down view, you can see there's these barrels here for seats. If you wanted to build up a 3D scene on top of this, kind of using the 2D imagery as placeholders, if you will, you could do something like grab a tapped barrel here, for example. And we can drag this over here, and we're going to turn off the snap, and we are going to we're going to scale this up, and we're going to rotate it, and we're going to look at it from the top down, and we're going to move it a little bit. We're going to scale it up some more. And again, we would probably get a 3D bar to put in there as well. I'm just showing you kind of a quick off-the-cuff example. And now we have a tapped barrel that is obviously what's going on here, and we have it right there. It looks like each one of these stools is a barrel, so we could add barrels to the scene for our stools. And again, we're going to just, we're going to use this, and we're going to zoom right down on this, and we're going to scale it up so that it perfectly covers the 2D imagery. Whoa! And, well, it looks like it needs to be scaled up a little bit more. But again, you don't have to perfectly cover everything. It's, again, a guideline. And then if we even have a chandelier here. Again, that would be hard because that's above. But you get the idea. If you certainly want to use one of these 2D images, even if it has 2D assets already there, you can certainly do that. I think we have all sorts of stuff. We have a round table. And again, I could set the insertion point to make this a little bit easier to get these in. But again, this is kind of, I'm going to do this and just zoom over to the round table. And again, scale that up. There. And you're well on your way to taking this awesome 2D map and using it as the basis for a full-on 3D scene. And again, we can lock all those, so as we start grabbing around here, we're not pulling them out of place. But very easy, you can see, to add these various assets in here and go from 2D to 3D anytime you're ready to do that or you feel you want to. But again, thanks again for watching this stream, or if you're watching the video on Twitch or on YouTube. Our Kickstarter currently is live. It'll be live the entire month of July. So if you're watching this and it's still July, please, again, you can get from our Twitter, from the website right down here, from every one of our socials, you can get to our Kickstarter, which is live. We're really looking for your support. We've got all this software ready to go. We're looking for monies. We can spend a little time making some more assets, creating some actual scenarios and encounters in a living campaign that whether you have a DM and a group, you can still just come, get signed up for a game session, and play the same character throughout the campaign, whether you're playing with the same group or not. Jump in. All of the encounters are tiered so that we can have a mix of layers or levels of characters, so that doesn't matter. Just if you've ever played like a living campaign at a con or something like that, it works the same way. You just have your favorite character that progresses regardless of who you happen to be playing with in any given adventure scenario. And so we'd really appreciate your support. We've got, again, our Kickstarter is going for the whole month of July. If you would check it out, if you think we've got 4 reward tiers, and we really appreciate it if you take a look. And if you like the software that you're seeing here on this stream, this video, we'd appreciate your support. So thank you, and again, thanks for watching.